Conspiracy theories that helped shape American history. Recap in 2020. Please subscribe. 5th, the Populist Party's gold-silver conspiracy. In 1892, a new player showed up at the National Convention, the People's Party, also known as the Populist Party. At its head was Ignatius Donnelly, whom you might remember as one of the guys who insisted that Atlantis was absolutely real. According to Donnelly, the party had been formed just in time because the entire country was in a massive downward spiral. One of the things that he had a major issue with is something that's still a huge cause for concern and debate today: the labor of many for the wealth of few. Donnelly said that it was unacceptable that there were so few people sitting on such massive amounts of money while everyone else was working their fingers to the bone trying to make ends meet. He said that those in power were making sure that this wouldn't change, and they were doing it by making gold the standard. 4th, the American Protective Association. The American Protective Association, APA, was formed with one major goal in mind: preventing Catholics from holding public office. The APA was originally a secret society, allied with the Republicans and formed with a know-nothing anti-Catholic decree as the basis of its beliefs. Most of their members were Protestant, and they released tract after tract on the conspiracy to bring down America, tracts that saw a resurgence in popularity when Kennedy was elected. They claimed that half of the country's public offices were held by Catholics, even though only about 12.5% of the population was Catholic. The APA was more than happy to help the dissension along by distributing literature that claimed Pope Leo XIII had issued a doctrine that released Americans from any obligation to their country. This doctrine stated that Catholics were only responsible for their loyalty to their church. The claims, especially those about the rumored Protestant massacre, were taken very seriously. In addition to citizens arming themselves specifically against the threat of Catholic violence, the mayor of Toledo even called in the National Guard as a precaution against the massacre. Those who joined the APA swore an oath not to help the expansion of Catholicism in the states, hire Catholics to work for them, or enter into any kind of agreement or contract with a Catholic. They also swore not to support the election of a Catholic and to wage a continuous warfare against ignorance and fanaticism, and to strike the shackles and chains of blind obedience to the Roman Catholic Church from the hampered and bound. 3rd, the Dred Scott Conspiracy. The Dred Scott case was one of the landmark court cases in the history of the United States, ruling that after 11 years of freedom, Scott was still a slave. The reaction of the North was one of unanimous outrage. Revoking Scott's freedom was nothing short of spitting on the very idea of freedom and individual rights, and there was only one reason that a group of human beings would come to that decision: they were a part of the Southern conspiracy. If there was any doubt about which side the court was on, they cleared it up with the ruling of this case. The Dred Scott case added fuel to the incredible tensions between North and South. While some Northern papers took the ruling as a sign that they had already lost ground and that the government had already fallen to the conspirators, others took it as a sure sign that they needed to do what was right and continue to oppose slavery. The case also came up in the election that would determine the course of American history. While Abraham Lincoln would condemn the decision, he also spoke out against the Kansas-Nebraska Act of 1854, the first victory for the conspirators, and a law that had been framed by Stephen Douglas, his opponent. For Lincoln, there was no doubt that the conspiracy was real, and putting his opponent in line with it gained him support from those who were convinced slaveholders wouldn't stop until they spread slavery across the free world. 2nd, William Pelly and the Silver Shirts. Once a reporter for the Saturday Evening Post and Hollywood horror scriptwriter, William Pelly eventually turned his attention to the real world. Communism, according to Pelly, was a front for a secret group of Jews who were also in league with the Illuminati. When Pelly became active in politics, he took aim at President Roosevelt and claimed that the New Deal was yet another branch of communism. The Great Depression had been orchestrated to bring America to its knees, But Pelé soon found someone who really understood him, Hitler. In 1933, the pro-Nazi Pelé organized the Silver Shirts as an American version of Mussolini's black and Hitler's brown-shirted supporters. He believed that the English were the true Israelites, that the Second Coming was imminent. September 17, 2001, according to the pyramids at Giza, and that Christ would finish what Hitler had started. Pelé wanted his Silver Shirts to be right there, too, ready and waiting to help. By the middle of the 1930s, there were about 15,000 members of the Silver Shirts, but the order was short-lived. Pelé was arrested and indicted on an impressive range of charges, and by the time the war started in earnest, his movement had lost its popularity. Members would go on to spawn their own hate groups, though, ensuring that Pelé's blind belief in a global Jewish conspiracy would live on. First, Thomas Jefferson wanted to end the world. The 1800 presidential election was outrageously vitriolic, and the Federalists threw everything they could at Thomas Jefferson, painting him in the middle of a massive conspiracy that was going to bring down the world's governments, end Christianity, and put all private property in the hands of a select few. It was all being orchestrated by the Illuminati, the group that had established its agents in the French court and brought about the French Revolution was looking to do the same thing in America, and they were going to use Jefferson to do it. The Federalists pointed to Jefferson's close ties to the French and said that he had been secretly recruited by the Illuminati while spending time at the French court. The Illuminati already had a reputation as a shady group of powerful people who were trying to take over the world. Using Jefferson was supposed to play on fears that were already out there, which obviously didn't work. Jefferson was also supposed to be a staunch atheist, which doesn't seem like it would be that big of a deal. But the kind of atheism that went along with the sort of person that would join up with a conspiracy to bring down the known world was a serious sort of atheism. One of the most determined and graphic spokesmen of the consequences of a victory for Jefferson was Timothy Dwight, then president of Yale. If Jefferson were to win, Dwight warned, the Bible would be burned. Murder, robbery, rape, adultery, and incest will be openly taught and practiced. The air will be rent with the cries of distress. The soil will be soaked with blood, the nation black with crimes. Needless to say, he won anyway. Thanks for watching.